Well, hi, my name is Cynthia, and this is also Carolina, and we are both doing our internship this summer. And today here with us we have Carmen Martinez. So she will be quickly introducing herself, and then we'll be asking her some questions about the work she does. And yeah.
Thank you, Cynthia. My name is Carmen Martinez. I work as Partnerships Manager at CDM, Centro de los Derechos del Migrante. I use she, her pronouns, and I work remotely based out of Atlanta, Georgia.
So for the first question that we have for you is just what is again your role at CDM? What does your role necessarily include, and how did you end up in your current role?
Thank you, Cynthia. As I mentioned, I'm partnerships manager at CDM, and my job involves strengthening, building relationships with external partners. And those partners include community-based organizations, worker centers, union locals, folks who have relationships or ties with worker communities in the various states that we do our work in. And so oftentimes we're not only just doing outreach and providing materials to workers and information on their rights, but we're also doing advocacy, sometimes on local level, but oftentimes on a federal level to help strengthen worker protections. And I came to this work, as an outreach paralegal at a previous organization, where I helped support teams in bringing cases to help defend the rights of workers, of immigrant and migrant workers, to defend their civil rights as well. And so this comes from like a longstanding commitment to supporting worker communities in defending their rights.
Thank you so much. Well, it seems like you honestly do a lot in your role. So we're curious, maybe what is like the thing that you enjoy most about your task and like, yeah, in your position.
Sure. I think I enjoy any opportunities that I get to have conversations with workers and sort of myself and hearing what they're experiencing in real time. Um, One thing is to talk to other advocates and think about, oh, what are some good solutions to help solve the problems that workers facing? But another thing is to actually hear from workers themselves, their perspective, whether the solutions that, that we're debating are actually practicable, actually going to make a meaningful difference. And I think one thing I really appreciate about CDM as an organization is that we really prioritize centering workers' voices, going back to workers and, the committees that we help facilitate to make sure that we're getting their feedback, and ultimately, they're the ones who are helping shape that advocacy work.
I think you're muted, Cynthia.
Sorry. And on the other side of that, we wanted to ask, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges you face within your role and with the work you do?
I think a common challenge I face, and I think it's a challenge that a lot of nonprofits face, is just limited time and resources. We want to do all of the things, but we don't have enough time, enough resources to do everything. And so I think, I try to approach our relationships with that, in mind, and making sure we're sort of prioritizing, understanding what our partners' priorities are, and trying to build any work that we do, trying to build on that and not, taking us to another tangent. And so, yeah, just trying to be really mindful of how we use our resources together.
And do you have a particular highlight or project or achievement in your time with CDM?
Yeah, I think the last couple of years we've had a lot of really great developments that have been a result of years-long advocacy. One of which I think is sometimes a little hard to understand because it can be a little bit in the weeds. But there was this new rule, the H-2A rule, that will bring really good protections for workers, help them access, service providers a little bit better, help bring some protections in transportation, protect them from unfair firing. So, this rule is going to make some really meaningful change in H-2A workers' lives, and we're hoping will sort of also help strengthen, the rights of all workers. And so, yeah, I think that's one accomplishment that, again, that's been a result of many years of advocacy. And right now the rule is being challenged in the courts, but we're hopeful that it will be preserved, right? And that we're able to move most, if not all of it forward, and be able to share information with workers about their new protections, and hopefully, defend those if there are, employers that don't abide by the rule. So we're really excited about that.
And do you have maybe any advice that you would give to someone new joining CDM or just in general entering the workforce, maybe for nonprofits?
Yeah, I think there's, in any job there's a little bit of a learning curve. So I think it's really important to ask all of the questions, sort of understand the scope of your role, understand how you're able to collaborate with others, and what other people's roles are. So you know who are the experts in the different areas and who you can reach out to for extra support. And in particular with nonprofits, again, we have to be extra strategic about the work that we do because, resources are limited, but also we oftentimes have to go back and sort of share, what are the results of our work with our supporters, with our funders. And so just, making sure we're, taking note of all of the great wins, even though they're small, sometimes they're really big, like the H-2A rule. And, trying to always come back and sharing that news with your supporters, because I think it does make a difference that folks see sort of the seeds that you're planting, even if, you'll see the success maybe a little bit further down the line.
Similarly, how do you stay inspired or motivated outside of work, especially considering like with nonprofits and a lot of the work that CDM does, I think sometimes it could take a toll on people. So maybe like how do you stay motivated to keep going?
That's a really great question. I think, one thing that's really important to do is to sort of advocate for yourself, understand for yourself what is, a good work-life balance, and making sure you're making enough time to rest and recuperate, especially after going out on outreach for several days, or like, finishing up a particularly grueling, project or activity, making sure to make some time for yourself to recuperate, spend time, doing something that you love, whether that be, hanging out with your family, whether that be engaging in a hobby. It's really important to take that time for yourself because it'll give you a little bit of a break from what can be sometimes emotionally, hard work. And so, I think I also like to have conversations with my coworkers, other people who are engaging in the work, to keep the perspective, to sort of keep positive, and continue to move forward and have what we say in Spanish, ánimo, to continue moving forward the work.
Um, so now in your current role in CDM, it seems like you're more of a mentorship role, where you're the mentor. But has there have you had any significant influences or mentors in your career who have shaped the work that you do today?
Yeah. I've in my previous job had other mentors that did the same role as I did, and then other folks who supervised my work, who I who I learned did work, at one point in their careers very similar to mine and kind of understood, where I was coming from or, coming from the same background. I'm Latina, so, I think really connecting with other coworkers who are Latinos and do this work that I think we feel very personal, like attachment to, given that we're oftentimes providing services to people who are, who could very well be our parents or who come from the same communities. And so I think, yeah, mentorship is really important. I think have valued and learned a lot from those people. And, in my current role, I also have people that I would consider mentors that provide really great feedback, critical feedback, which is important and hard to take sometimes, but like also critical feedback is very key into helping you grow professionally. And yeah, I hope to be able to provide a little bit of nugget to that to people who I end up collaborating with in our work.
And what professional or personal values have been guiding your work? I know you've already spoken a little bit about that, but if you have any more values.
Yeah, I think a desire to see a world where everyone can live lives full of dignity and respect. And I think particularly, here where we are in our context in our country, we have a very complicated history where the founding of this country was on the backs of people who either were not paid or, who were forced to do, work and provide the critical groundwork for the birth of this country. And so we continue to see the remnants of that in our laws, in the conditions and the struggles that people have today, particularly marginalized people. And so I do this work because I have a desire to see change. And, at now 10 years into this work, I do know and understand that a lot of that is very incremental and sometimes hard to be patient to see, again, the fruits of your labor, everyone's collective labor. But it's, yeah, I think that's what really motivates me to continue to do this work, continue to see, people struggle with a lot of different issues at work, and other places that, you know, that there's a way that I can contribute a little tiny grain of sand to be able to support those folks.
So you've talked a little bit about like the fruits of your labor and planting those seeds. What is maybe one seed that you're looking forward to, coming to fruition?
Um, I think so. One thing that I've been, supporting in our work is putting together opportunities for people to apply for this temporary immigration relief called deferred action. And we're hopeful that for people who ultimately decide to apply for deferred action, take advantage of it and hopefully receive this benefit. I'm looking forward to seeing how that'll change sort of the dynamic in which they feel empowered at work if they continue to work at the same place where they face the issues that's, started off this process, right? But also, even if they decide to leave the work, to see sort of, what other things they end up doing, if they end up getting a better job, if they end up, being able to take advantage of opportunities they might not have otherwise. Because I think that's the goal, to, help support people, organizing to change or to make decisions that are, ultimately going to benefit their lives. And, ultimately, what I think we would like is to see actual immigration reform that provides permanent relief for folks. But in the meantime, I think this is still a really great tool. And so I'm hopeful and curious to see how that unfolds over the next couple of years.
Thank you. And you've spoken a lot about the amazing work you are doing, but how do you like to spend your time outside of work?
I have two young kids that take up a lot of my time. I enjoy, spending time with them, seeing them grow, seeing them become, empathetic human beings. Hopefully we'll do a lot of good in this world. But I also enjoy reading. I enjoy reading all types of books and getting to learn new perspectives and in some ways sort of travel and, you know, see the world from a different point of view. And yeah, I think I don't have a ton of free time, so that's what I spend my time doing.
Well, thank you again, Carmen, for meeting with us and taking some time to answer questions. We've definitely learned a lot from you, not only through our internship experience thus far, but also through these important discussions and conversations that take place. So thank you again for meeting with us.
You're very welcome. I hope you enjoy your internship with us.
Thank you.